We have a disturbing in a good way for
A
Apocaflix
poster.
now. I think Smashing Padme is our alternate Padawan shirt.
I can't.
Oh my goodness.
I
There
I
we
can't, dude. I
I,
cannot get that out of my
That's
head.
I
how it
think you
happened.
just
Hey,
permanently ruined that scene with me
Oh my
of
god.
hold
Obi-Wan
on a
just
second.
standing at
Now
the
you guys are
top
gonna be
with his
thinking
arms on his
about
Oh
hips.
my god.
Hold on.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Padawan Podcast, Apocaflix Movies All Star Wars podcast, where we are breaking down everything from the galaxy far, far away. And today, that is solely focusing on the Clone Wars, what we have been talking about the last 12 weeks about. We are officially breaking down with full spoilers the entire season of Season 7. We are here to talk about today. And it is not just me. I am your host, Jake Berlin, a.k.a. Qui-Gon Jake. And today I am joined by my fellow panel members, Mr. Bartley over there in the middle, Obi-Wan Jacoby, and the Grand Admiral Sino himself, Brian over there on the right or left, depending on where you're looking from us. How you guys doing today?
Hello there, doing well. I love the new
Overlay?
overlay, yes. Looks very cool
That's
because
good.
I was thinking, should I put my Twitter handle on my Star Wars name? I can't decide, and now it has both, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I think I decided on Apocaflix Now officially being the only one. Well, I guess Nerd Nation does it for now, but the only one where we kind of do the StreamYard names. I'm gonna find a way to
Oh, I
overlap
see, I
everything else
see.
with overlays to make it a little bit more fun and more personal to us than what we've had in the past. But yeah, so thank you for that. Yeah, guys, we are here today to talk the Clone Wars. The season 7 was a long road, although it was shorter than the past seasons and any other animated show that we've had in the past. It was a very long, dramatic, emotional ride for 12 straight weeks. It ended by the time this comes out over a week ago. And you guys can see not just our episode reviews, which are up on the channel, but we did a live reaction of the final episode, which you can watch. Super cool. The three of us turn on the episode at the same time. You can see our live reaction to everything that happened. So check that out. But for now, we're going to be going into full spoilers here. Go full on Star Wars nerdgasm about this whole season, and the favorite moments and just canon stuff that happened and kind of what it leads to or what it means. And we may not touch on everything, but we're going to talk about as much as we can in our time frame and the stuff that we want to particularly talk about. And so, with that said. Let's just dive right into this. I don't have any kind of chronological way that we want to do this. If someone wants to bring up something specific, you are more than welcome to. Otherwise, we can go by each arc. Totally up to you guys. If there's something that's like just digging into your head about that you want to talk about, go for it. I give you guys for the next 5 or 10 seconds. If anyone wants to say something,
I think it's important to talk about how separate these arcs are, aside from them bringing in some of the Mandalorians in Arc 2 in order to set up Arc 3. Like, these could have been 4 separate arcs, like, spread far apart away from each other in the Clone Wars 22 episode season, other than that little connection. But even then, you could have had Arc 2 be the beginning of a season, and then have Arc 3 be the end of the season, and still have that connection where Ahsoka goes with them. I was expecting a straight storyline through all 12 episodes before they announced that it was for 3 arcs. And it's just interesting that they did it that way. Even though it's true to Clone Wars, I thought it was going to be different.
I agree. I think that that's definitely an interesting thing because we went into, the majority of the trailer footage of what we've seen had been from the Siege of Mandalore. That was the majority.
Yeah.
We saw tidbits of the Martez sisters, and we saw a little bit of the Bad Batch, obviously, because they want to tease that stuff. Like, obviously, the initial teaser trailer was everything from the Bad Batch. It was the Battle of Anaxis. But everything there on out was Ahsoka versus Maul or the Mandalorians or stuff like that. And so we didn't, it was interesting how it all played out. Cause like you said, it could have been all released separately. Like, realistically, it could have really all been released as like 3 separate movies in one trilogy. Like, that's kind of how I look at it. It's really like, even though there's very small connections between the 3 arcs, definitely between the first and the second and the first and the second, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
It does feel like they almost thought of it as like a movie trilogy for 3 separate arcs. because each one was 2 hours long, essentially. Looking at it as a movie, and while it's definitely different in Clone Wars, now looking back at it, I do appreciate it a little bit, even though I still wanted a little bit more connectivity between all 12 rather than the 5 or 6 that really could be connected to each other.
Well, did Bad Batch even connect to anything?
Well, as far
Not
as
directly,
footage,
I don't think so.
as far as themes go, like thematically, yes, it did, but not anything else.
Yeah, so I mean that one kind of almost is its own separate. Like that was just a battle that we would kind of normally see in any other season, because it didn't really have a direct effect on Siege of Mandalore or Ahsoka really in that
Ahsoka's
first.
walkabout.
Yeah, so but with that being said, though, I absolutely loved the Bad Batch episodes, and I'm glad that they're there. But as far as what you guys are saying with like 12 fluid, I mean, 4 to 5, there's literally like none. It's just kind of like chop. All right, here's the next one. Like what, 8 and 9? There's something to connect it. I mean, like Jacob said, the Mandalorians. 4 to 5, it's just like, all right, cut this, put it to the side.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case. All in all, I think that it worked out well no matter what way we look at it, because there are definitely things we love in all the episodes. Let's just go ahead and start with the Bad Batch, because it was the one that you kind of needed to start out with a bang. Obviously, we haven't seen Clone Wars in a number of years. It's coming back. It's been hyped up so much, and you hear this rugged group of ragtag fighters that we have nothing to know about, obviously. And they start out great. Like the episodes were killer. I think when looking back at our reviews, the first 2 episodes, each of us really liked. We were getting to know these characters a little bit more throughout that. We love the small moments between, whether it was the Anakin and Padme hug virtual with Obi-Wan walking in, or something like that, or the moment where Rex finally gets to find Echo. For me, even though like the action was awesome, and we saw Anakin do that really awesome stuff on the planet with the Bad Batch against the clones, or not the clones, but the that other army, not the droid army, but the other army. Always forget their name.
I
forget their name. I don't know why I'm forgetting their name.
Keep talking. Droid Syndicate.
But
no.
So I don't know.
Is that it?
But for me, the most important thing that came out of the Bad Batch has to do with
Techno
Rex.
Union.
Techno Union. There you go. It has to do with Rex and how important this specific journey was for him, because he had to let go of a brother that he thought he had lost a long time ago. He found this guy who had been beaten and battered and used, and it adds to the ultimate theme of the entire season and the series as a whole of humanizing these clones. And they're not just born and bred for battle. Initially they were, but the Clone Wars, the movies didn't give us this. The Clone Wars series has given us this ultimate view of how to humanize these characters and make them, rather than be mindless clones of each other, to soldiers who have feelings and emotions and take things a certain way. And they're just like we are. They're exactly like we are. And the ultimate theme of season 7 for me was doing that. And it started with this, with Rex and Echo, and a little bit of the Bad Batch, obviously, because they were so different. And it really started off the season strong for me. And I really appreciate Dave Filoni taking the time to do that with the Bad Batch, because you think of characters like this, and it's very odd to think that they'd be an elite group of fighters. But the way they were portrayed and used, I thought was done brilliantly.
Well, I mean, you hit the nail on the head with the clones. I mean, the whole Clone Wars was to show us kind of that these are not just droids. They're not. That's what makes them different from the droids they're fighting against. And I mean, they have feelings, they have thoughts, and they they are they're just, I don't, what are the words I'm trying to say? They're no different than the generals, really, other than that they were bred for war. And even then, we see that some of them don't want to do that. And then just because a clone may be defected doesn't mean they're not any less useful than one that isn't. So it really, those four definitely humanized, even though they are technically already humans, humanized the characters of the clones a lot more, and it made it more hit home more that they're people too. So, and not these droids that are out with the separatists that one goes down, they can build another 10 and just throw them out there. It's different with these guys.
Yeah, you made me realize something, Jake, that our Arc 1, you could say, and Arc 3, the biggest connection they have is Rex. I mean, because Rex is a main character in both of those arcs. So if you just watch those two arcs, it's actually a really nice connection, because Arc 1 shows Rex dealing with his lost brother and rediscovering him, and it shows you, even if you've never seen Clone Wars before, it shows you how much Rex cares about his fellow soldiers. And then when you go to Arc 3, when he's going through this situation where he got the chip taken out and now he has to fight his brothers, it puts it all into perspective. Because if you just start episode 9, and episode 9 of Clone Wars, not episode 9 of the series of the movies, you wouldn't know that yet, really. Like, if you only jumped into Arc 3 and didn't watch anything else, you wouldn't really know much backstory on Rex and his clone brothers. But Arc 1 does give you that. So, and I mean, it's kind of obvious. I mean, I like the third arc the best, this first arc second best, and then the middle arc the least. So it kind of shows that, and there's a ton of things. The Bad Batch, you guys know I wasn't as excited as you guys were at first, but then, like, by episode 2, I was just in love with them, because Crosshair is my favorite. Like, he's
with the glasses. Is that his name? Is that the one?
No. He was the sniper one.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, he was. That's his name, right?
Yes, I think so.
Crosshair, the one who
yeah.
When Anakin got taken by that beast, he was like, "Don't worry, I got this," and he just lashed himself onto one and started following them through those mountains and stuff. That was cool. He did so many cool things, like when I think it was episode 4 when they were trying to get out of there, and then he one-upped the big guy, and they were kind of competing with each other to kill the droids the best way. So there's a lot of cool stuff in the first 4 episodes. I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, there's a lot of incredibly good, well developed action, and
absolutely, I was going to say some of the best action we've seen.
And specifically the stuff that stands out with Anakin, obviously, and the final episode of them taking on that army. But yeah, it's a cool arc because it's so different. We got a taste of it with Clone 99 during the couple seasons of the series. That character ultimately sacrificed himself for his fellow soldiers. And so it was good to kind of get a callback to that, of a character that had kind of been, tossed to the side for how he turned out, not of his choosing, that's just how it happened. And then you see these characters kind of, they do the uprising and they figure out their way, and they're ultimately one of the best fighting groups in the entire Grand Army of the Republic. And so I definitely think that maybe we'll see him one day. I would love to hear if there's how their story is. I don't know if they got the chips because they were so messed up or not. I don't know, but I'd love to find that story out.
I'm guessing they
very
didn't.
Interesting. Something very
they didn't. Yeah.
What are they doing? Where are they if they didn't have the chips? Did they protect Jedi? Were they out in the middle of nowhere? Do they even know this happened right to this second? There's so many questions regarding them, and I would love to see a future series.
I bet you. Story. So wasn't the guy? Was it one of them named Tech?
That was the one
Yeah,
that
Tech,
Galactus
that
was
was my
talking about.
favorite.
Yeah.
So Tech, I bet you, even if they did have the chips, I bet you Tech figured it out and pulled them out of each of their heads. Like either
Probably.
that or they never got them.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think either they never got them or they were never around any Jedi to do anything. So it kind of just was pointless.
That's true.
And eventually,
Because
and
they
then-
like look around, oh, there's no Jedi, just let's continue with what we're doing.
yeah,
But maybe if they
'cause
ever
I mean-
saw a Jedi in the future, they would have to kill them.
maybe. I mean, it honestly probably makes more sense that they didn't, just because like, oh, they're defunct ones. We're not going to waste our time on them. Like that kind of is what I probably would guess out of everything. But I mean, we don't know what they were doing, and that could be, if we're trying to figure that out, that's probably the biggest what is if they're doing something where that chip means something, or maybe it's flipped on and then it just didn't matter because they weren't around Jedi, and then Tech probably just got rid of it if it did. So I mean, we'll never, well, I shouldn't say we'll never know, but for right now,
hopefully we do. Hopefully we do.
yeah. So for now, we don't know what's.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and move forward to the second arc of this season, because I do want to get to the good stuff sooner rather than later, because we are probably going to take a little bit of time on that. The Martez series arc, and that was called Ahsoka's Walkabout. This is when Ahsoka Tano officially came back into the fold. We don't know exactly the timeline-wise of how far this was after her leaving the Order. No matter the case, the most important thing that we picked up from this arc is, well, two things. One, we got to see what she was doing from the time she left until, essentially Order 66 and kind of her novel leading into the Siege of Mandalore anyway. But the second thing, and then probably the most important thing, is that it reaffirms her view of the Jedi and how they've kind of fallen out of grace and how they aren't who they were originally supposed to be, and how like she was brought up to be as a Jedi. How they have they say it in the final arc. They're much more political, and they're not driven toward or for the things that they were supposed to be about, peace and justice and all these things that have been so embodied by the Jedi of the past. And that leads directly into the Siege of Mandalore and everything that happens. And so whatever we may think about the Martez sisters, or, the fact that one episode literally took them in a giant circle, there's definitely an important theme
Jacob
there.
loved that episode.
Yeah, there's definitely an important theme there about Ahsoka's views of the Jedi, and that comes directly from these Martez sisters. And that's definitely something that's important when you look at the season as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, to me, yeah, that is important to know what she was doing, but unfortunately, to me at least, it's kind of forgettable, honestly. That arc, for the most part, I mean, you just kind of take all you kind of really need to say to just know is just she met up with some sisters and got into some trouble, and Mandalorians caught up to her, and she went off to siege Mandalore. Like, I mean, I don't know if it needed 4 episodes to tell that story. Am I glad I got it? Yeah, sure. I'm going to take any episodes I can get. But at the end of the day, like, to me at least, that was clearly the weakest arc out of the 3. But my God, like I said, my God, I got it. Yeah, for context of story. Is it anything special? No. I'm probably not gonna be like, I wouldn't recommend it to be like, oh, you guys definitely, like, if you want to recommend to try to get someone to watch Clone Wars, I'm probably never gonna say those 4. But I mean, it's there. I'm glad I have it. Wasn't anything like amazing, in my opinion.
Jacob?
What, Jacob?
Yeah,
Jacob's going like this.
There's
Plotting.
there's no secret that, I mean, even I'm pretty sure between all three of us, it's our least favorite arc, but that doesn't mean we hate it or anything like that. there's very few things in it that are essential to me. Like, I don't think Ahsoka learned anything she didn't already know. Like, that story that they told her was a cool piece of information, but it kind of just made Ahsoka realize, like, what she already knew. Like, just reiterated what she already knew. So it didn't really do much for me. And let's put it this way. I will definitely rewatch the last 4 episodes, like, just like they're one of the movies. I'll rewatch the Bad Batch episodes again just because they're so cool, but I'll never rewatch these 4 episodes. Like, why would I? I mean, unless I'm doing a Clone Wars marathon and I'm purposefully watching every episode of every season, then I will. But I'm not going to go pop in. Like, I want to go watch the last 4 episodes right now. I don't want to watch these 4 episodes right now.
So if you decide to rewatch season 7, you're not going to watch these 4? Is that what you're saying? Did we lose him? Oh.
I don't know what happened. Was I cutting out?
A little bit.
You just kind of froze.
So yeah, what I asked was if you did a season 7 rewatch, you're saying that you'll never watch these episodes with that season 7 rewatch?
No, I mean, like I said, if I was doing like a marathon, or if I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch season 7 of Clone Wars, then I have to watch them. But I'm saying like sometimes I'll go revisit like and like if I was gonna, I wouldn't revisit this arc.
Okay, fair
I
enough.
would say for me, if I'm watching season 7, 9 out of 10 times, I'm probably gonna skip this arc. I mean, there's probably if we had to take a shot in the dark in the amount of arcs throughout the 7 seasons of Clone Wars, there's probably like 40, maybe 30, between 30 and 40.
Yeah.
Okay. I wouldn't put it in the top 10. I don't even know if I'd put it in close to top 20. So, I mean, to me, there's just so much more that I would rather watch than that storyline. Like the Mortis arc.
Top.
Oh, he's leaving us on suspense. It's top what, Jacob?
It's all good. It's all good. We'll move on.
I don't know what's going on with my internet.
It's all good. It's that's what happens.
Did you say there were 40 arcs?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
There's, let's say, 40. It's probably not going to be in.
Oh, if you said there's 40, then it's like top 39, top 38.
Oh, here we go. All right, let's go ahead and move on because let's get to the good stuff. This is obviously everything we want to talk about here. The Siege of Mandalore. And like I said up top, guys, our reviews of these episodes are up on the channel. It's under the Fandalorian Club, and they are by far our longest in-depth episodes because there's a lot that happens. And we have that live reaction of the final episode as well. But we can just kind of spiral as we talk about this. We don't have to go any kind of specific direction. I did want to start with something, though, that we didn't touch on in our episode 12 review. And it might take up a little bit of time, and I don't want to forget it when we get to the end. We haven't talked about Morai. We touched on Morai very briefly in the review. And it's something that's actually quite important, not just to Star Wars, but to the character of Ahsoka, because it might solidify some fan theories and thoughts that people have had about her in particular for the last number of years. And I can just break it down this way very quickly here. Morai, we know, is the Star Wars Condor, right? It's the owl version, or it's the Star Wars version of an owl. That's what it is. That's essentially what it is. It's Star Wars owl. Okay, that's how you can describe this bird. But the catch with this is that Morai was first shown up in the Mortis arc of the Clone Wars, and we have seen Morai spaced out ever since in the Clone Wars and Rebels, particularly with Ahsoka for one specific reason. Ahsoka, spoiler alert for you who have never watched Clone Wars, I'm sorry if you never watched Clone Wars, but this is going to happen. Ahsoka died. Ahsoka died in the Mortis arc. She died. She was gone. a character named the Daughter, which was the light side of the Force, the embodiment of the Force, gave her power to Ahsoka to make her live. And since then, Morai has been
Power
connected
or
to
life?
her. Power, life force, it's the same. That's the same thing.
Oh,
It's what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, life force. That's a better way to say it. And ever since then, Morai has essentially been attached to / following Ahsoka around. Now, many up to this point have believed that that moment had essentially meant that the light side of the Force, the embodiment of the light side of a Force, was Ahsoka. It became Ahsoka because of that moment. And that Morai was the daughter in bird form, essentially watching over her through her travels. Now, we saw Morai in Clone Wars. We saw Morai in Rebels. We saw Morai in The World Between Worlds at the end of Rebels. It's this Force-sensitive bird that just pops up everywhere. But the key here, and we didn't talk about this, every time you see Morai, you see Ahsoka. Ahsoka is around. Now, the question I'm posing here was Ahsoka there at the end of the episode when Vader saw Morai? Was she there somewhere watching over? Because every time we have seen Morai up until this point, Ahsoka has been in the vicinity somewhere. Now, we don't see her, so the answer will probably never be answered, or the question will never be answered. But it's a very interesting thing to talk about because at that point in time, Vader is essentially the dark side, right? He's the son, and Ahsoka can be considered the daughter. And if Morai is there, Ahsoka could be watching. It's a very interesting thing to talk about.
That's crazy. I mean, to be honest, I didn't know all that, most of that stuff. So that's interesting. But I could see that, but then why would she be there at that exact same moment? But that would be really cool. That would make sense, like regarding the history of Morai and everything. I just maybe she stayed on that planet, but that wouldn't be smart because that's the first place they'd look to find her. So it's a mixture of a bunch of things, but that'd be really cool if she was watching from afar, like watching Anakin or Vader from afar.
I don't think she was around because Vader's pretty good at picking up Force presence when people are around, like whether it's ships flying by or something. So I feel like he would have probably picked up if she was there. I mean, I've always considered kind of like, I mean, we have the father, the daughter, and the son. I mean, to me, this is just me, but I always kind of just consider it being like Father Obi-Wan, Anakin, son, daughter Ahsoka, because it kind of works that way when you think about it. I just think almost like, I was gonna say the owl, but Morai is just kind of like a presence that's always there. And yeah, I get it. Jake, you make a good point that the owl is usually with Ahsoka, or Ahsoka is around the owl. I don't know. I think there's a lot more to that owl that we don't know, condor, whatever, than we know. I mean, I almost sometimes think that she can kind of use the owl as a vessel sometimes. Like, kind of almost how, this is my own ponder, but like almost kind of like how they're able to force control animals, where they kind of do that, but just like, I don't know. There's a lot of questions that I have with Morai and what it could mean, because I feel like we don't really know too much. But as far as her being there, I don't know. I would lean towards no, personally.
All right. Well, that was just a little thing I wanted to touch on there. Okay, so let's get back to the Siege of Mandalore here. Jacob, I'm going to start with you, man. Something that you want to discuss, bring up, vent, get excited about as far as the 4-episode arc of the Siege of Mandalore.
Well, we're going to talk about a lot of things, but I guess I'm just going to move the spotlight to Maul real quick, just before we're going to talk about Ahsoka and Rex a lot. So do you guys think Maul was necessary for he was necessary for everything on Mandalore, but as far as being on this ship with Ahsoka, do you think it was necessary for him to be there or not? I love that he was there. We got one of the coolest scenes in Star Wars, but do you guys think it was just kind of fan service, or do you think it was necessary?
Necessary.
I'd say
Unnecessary.
necessary.
Yeah.
Necessary.
Yeah,
because
so.
for me, he's one of my favorite characters of all time, and I loved seeing him in just, metal sheets slicing off stormtroopers' heads. That was awesome. But like, I wanted a little bit more, like, of where he went and what he left off to do. But the way the episode was designed, it wasn't going to be able to show that, because the episode just the ship's going down, they get down there, episode ends, like it's just over. So there wasn't time for that. But we all thought like, oh, we're going to see him leave with the crime syndicates and all this stuff. And this episode threw a lot of our theories out of the window.
Idea.
But
we went on like a 20-minute rant.
But overall, I love seeing Darth Maul. Like, there's already those comparing Darth Vader's always seen.
I sent you that video
thing. So
yeah,
I was just glad to see him back, and they were like, all right, let's make Maul look like a bad mother effer one more time, and they did. So I loved it.
Before we get to any thoughts on that, Brian, I have a question for you because, well, both of you, if Jacob, you know this as well. It's just a quick question on what we just talked about. Do you think there's a possibility that Maul is the son? Because it was always the son and the daughter going after one another, and who seemed to always be fighting with each other from here on out.
I don't know. I just think it's kind of too perfect to for me, the way I always thought.
It's too perfect.
No,
too perfect is the right answer.
No, I'm saying not Maul. I'm saying it's almost too perfect to do the Kenobi, Anakin, Ahsoka, because those three are essentially the Clone Wars storyline. Like, those are the characters we're seeing the most from. To then have Maul be it, I don't know. Maybe because I've already kind of like drilled that into my head almost, that it's a little too late to think something else. Because I mean, it's been so long since I watched the Mortis arc, but the brother's pretty relentless. He's pretty bad and unwavering from what I remember. Maul has his moments where it's like he doesn't do the right thing, but he isn't doing the worst possible thing. So I don't know. I think it's just, for me though, I think it's just the fact that I've associated those three with the other three so long that to think of Maul being it's kind of iffy to me.
It's fair. Okay, let's go and get back to this. Brian, I go and shoot it to you real quick, because same question I asked Jacob. One thing that you wanted to bring up about this before we kind of just zigzag our way through this.
Well, Jacob stole mine because it was going to be Maul.
Wow. Sorry about that.
Just because of like the amazement to me of the fact that where he originally started to where he is now, no one would have ever thought that. Like,
I said
it was a one-off.
I said it. Top 3 most important Star Wars characters ever.
Yeah, it's just amazing because he went from being a one-off that literally, like, people were like, "This dude is dope. Why'd they get rid of him?" And then look at where he is now. But I'll jump away from that so we can talk about different things. But just for me, just how incredible those 4 arcs are.
Episodes.
Episodes. It's literally like watching a movie. Like, I would not complain if those somehow got like woven into Revenge of the Sith. Like, it's incredible. They're so good, and it fits perfectly with Revenge of the Sith. There is not. I haven't seen one person or come out and say like, "Oh, well, this doesn't match up," or like, this kind of it's literally perfect, and that's where you notice. I mean, the touch of Filoni, like he literally sat on this for what? How many years? 6 years?
6.
7 years? 6 years, and you could tell he went over and over and over it until it was perfect. And it was, and that's what we got. Like, to think that we went from going from nothing to then getting this is incredible. Like, it's, and I'm not even someone that watched it from the beginning. I watched it.
Shame on both of you.
Well, at the time I didn't understand.
Both of you were haters before I told you about it.
This was never a hater.
Both of you were haters.
I was in high school when this started coming out.
Jacob thought he was a cool kid.
Yeah,
Jacob thought he was a cool kid.
Well, to be fair, and now it's funny because now it's like I can't even fathom it. But like I remember being little and go, Anakin never had a Padawan. Why are they trying to change Star Wars' original?
Shame.
Well, here's the thing.
Shame.
When this came out, there was no like legitimate precious canon. Like there was a ton of different canon. There was all different levels of canon, and George Lucas said that this was counted, but like we didn't know. The moment Star Wars, like Disney bought Star Wars, and they said only the movies and Clone Wars, and then one comic arc with Darth Maul, only that is canon. Then I was like, oh shoot, I need to watch Clone Wars. And then when I met Jake and he just kept telling me how great it was, then I actually watched it. But it's really when they said that was canon alone with the movies is when it like was like, damn, this is like must watch.
Yeah, and Brian isn't the only one that says the whole Anakin doesn't have a Padme. Or Padawan, not Padme. Well, he doesn't have a Padme.
Definitely has a Padme.
He doesn't have a Padme anymore. Obi-Wan has the Padme. Obi-Wan's smashing the Padme.
Yeah.
T-shirts, tpublic.com. Okay, so back to what Brian was saying about the Padawan not having a Padawan. That Padawan can now be considered, yes, and I'm saying it, possibly the greatest Jedi to ever live. She is the embodiment of what a perfect Jedi should be.
Hold on a second. Whenever I try to make arguments about Ahsoka and a Jedi, you guys say she's not a Jedi. Every time I say Ahsoka's a Jedi, you guys are like, she's not a Jedi.
This one.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. There's a point. There is a point in time when she is not a Jedi.
And Anakin are ranked way above her.
You have Anakin over,
but even
Ahsoka?
So, yeah.
Anakin
was the greatest Jedi in the galaxy.
Are you talking about abilities? Because that's different from what I'm talking about.
You're talking about like moral code and all that stuff.
I'm talking everything.
That goes to Obi-Wan.
Ahsoka is the perfect embodiment of what a Jedi.
That's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan's
the one who always followed the order. Are you serious?
Obi-Wan.
Ahsoka leads the Jedi Order
because the Jedi weren't who they were supposed to be. You just proved my point. My point. She left the order because the Jedi were not who they were supposed to be. She stood up, and she was the only one to ever actually say to their faces, "You guys are not who you promised to be, so I'm leaving." That is the perfect embodiment of what a Jedi should be.
To be fair, Obi-Wan did break the rules by falling in love with Satine.
But okay, I'm not against that because I still believe that the ways of having emotions for a Jedi are the way you're supposed. I don't know if you guys saw this or not. But what Dave Filoni said about Qui-Gon and Anakin and all that stuff on the recent Disney Gallery episode.
If you haven't seen it, oh my
Jacob, you
God.
got to find the clip, dude. I'm telling you, this is exactly what. This is anything you all. It's perfect. He
Jake,
says,
couldn't you just sit there and listen to him all day long?
he goes on about a 90-second rant about how Qui-Gon's death affected Anakin and the father and like the fatherhood and everything. It's brilliant. But he said that the reason why Qui-Gon was so against the Jedi way and he was so against the Council is because he believed in emotions. He believed in love. He believed in all of that. And that is what the embodiment of a Jedi should be. And the Jedi who we know in the prequels lost their way because they shut themselves off from that. And that is why Obi-Wan had so many battles with all the other Jedi, is because he still had that in him because of Qui-Gon. And although he still stood up to the Jedi code, he still had that in his system. But Ahsoka saw that and she said, no, that's not what we're supposed to be. I'm out.
But it took a lot of stuff for Ahsoka to do that. It took her to be framed by Palpatine and all that stuff, and them accusing her and not believing her.
And the Jedi not believing her. And the Jedi not believing her.
She didn't just say, you know what? The Jedi are bad. I'm out. It took all of that.
Well, of course. You always need a reason. Of course, you always need a reason.
But to me, no. As far as we know, like, there's thousands of years of Jedi we don't know. But as far as we know, Obi-Wan is the best Jedi of all.
As far as you know.
As far as we know, yes.
We should put a poll up. That should be a poll.
That's a versus right there.
No, I don't think a poll.
No, don't do a poll.
No, it's weird because Obi-Wan should win that poll, right? But then everyone who's just like, you know, I'm going to watch my language here. Everyone who really likes Ahsoka is going to just vote Ahsoka. Like, so it's different.
Are you afraid?
No, not at all. But the thing is, there's no way to get a fair, because where are we going to put it on YouTube and we get like 20 votes? That's not a fair indication.
YouTube, Twitter, all of it.
Poll. We need somebody legit. Like, we need Dave Filoni. Well, no, not Dave Filoni, because Ahsoka would win that poll. But we need like somebody to just post the poll, like, because we need like actual.
Reach out.
We need people who don't only like Clone Wars to like post it. Like, we need movie fans voting.
All right, fair enough.
All
right, well, we can go ahead and move on.
Have Damon settle it.
Yeah, we can go ahead and move on. That's just something I want to touch on. That I was hoping to get a rise out of someone, and I got it. All right. Final thoughts here, guys. So there's a lot of stuff to obviously digest for this entire arc in the season. It leaves us in a very emotional state. Obviously, the ending is very hard to watch at times, just because we know what state of the galaxy is in, and we know that the bad guys have officially won at this point, and the people we know and love and have grown to love in this series, a Plo Koon or a Ayla Secura or the Mace Windu, you know, like the characters who have really shined, who were just cameoed in the movies, really had moments in this series. They're gone. We know that they're no longer, and so it leaves us in a very just hard state to kind of sit and process. But and Jacob said it on, I think he said it on our review, but it's beautiful. The way it's beautifully done, and the way that it kind of finishes is very, very well done. Is there anything else that we want to touch on before we wrap up here? I know that we haven't touched on a lot on the Mandalorians, but I have a feeling that we're going to see a lot of them in the future, whether it's a future animated series or possibly the Mandalorian itself. Because I was thinking about this.
He got his theory.
I was thinking about this. We the last time we saw Bo-Katan, she had the Darksaber. She was going to Mandalore to fight off the Empire, right? I have a feeling we'll probably see that in Mandalorian season 2, because that's where Moff Gideon's probably going to get the Darksaber. But so there's a lot more of that story to be told. But is there anything else in this season that we want to kind of just put the cap on, finish our conversations on as we finish up our discussion on the Clone Wars?
I think we hit the nail on the head. I mean, if we had to say worse, better, or what we thought it would be, I would lean towards better than what I was thinking we were going to get. So, I mean, that's a win for me.
I think it lives up to the hype, for sure. I agree.
Yeah.
And a lot of that obviously is...
Yeah, it's...
Go ahead, Jacob. Go ahead.
Well, it's tough to say that because, like, the first 8 episodes are definitely not what I expected. even though I liked the Bad Batch episodes, like just overall, but then the last 4 episodes completely blew my expectations out of the water. So like I didn't know they were gonna directly weave through Revenge of the Sith like that. Like that was incredible, and I love that.
Right?
And just the ending is, I think Brian was like calling it beautiful, and he's like, I don't want to say beautiful, and I was like, no, yes, it is beautiful. The ending shot is beautiful with Vader standing there and lighting her lightsaber. Like we didn't know we were gonna get that the way it was, and it was so simple, and we were just jaws on the floor after that. We could barely talk after. If you watch our reaction, like we didn't even know what to say. So it, I will forever, like I said, I consider now when I watch the prequels, I'm watching those last 4 episodes along with them.
Agree.
Yeah, I think the best way to describe not just these 4 episodes but the season is that it really did put a perfectly tied bow on top of the prequel era. It feels like the official definitive ending of this era of storytelling for Star Wars. I'm sure we'll get stories close to this in the future, but Solo and Rogue One are much more tied to the original trilogy. Right now, this is the final time we're going to be seeing this era of Star Wars, and they absolutely ended it as perfectly as you could. I don't necessarily believe that they need to tell stories in this era anymore. I think what we know from the end of this until the next thing we see is all we need to know at this point. Would I like to see it? Of course, obviously. But I think that it's done so well with the prequels and with the Clone Wars. It really does kind of feel like it's the official ending of this era, and that was part of the purpose to do these last episodes, is to give a real closing to this era of storytelling for Star Wars.
Listen, I'm not going to say that Clone Wars saved the prequels from being hated, but it definitely helped the naysayers and the people that did not like that trilogy. I mean, let's be honest, it's not the greatest filmmaking of all time. It's not, to me, it's not anywhere close to the magic you get from the originals. It definitely has its moments, but the prequels, not always looked upon highly. If we didn't have Clone Wars and the expansion of these characters, Ahsoka, who is now probably one of the most beloved Star Wars characters,
The embodiment of a Jedi.
I mean, look at what we got from Maul.
Fine to say.
I mean, it saved and it highly improved the likability of the prequels. I mean, think of it, it's crazy to just think about. Without this, Maul would have just been that one-off. Ahsoka wouldn't exist. Commander Cody, Rex, Cody
Rex wouldn't exist. Rex wouldn't exist.
Yeah, I was going to say Cody, but Cody was in Clone Wars or Attack of the Clones for a second. But Rex
and
gone.
Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, Revenge of the Sith. Asajj Ventress, Savage Opress,
Dooku.
I mean, Dooku. All these amazing characters. Nothing if we didn't have this. And it would be completely untouched in this area. It would just be those 3 movies. So because of this, it makes those 3 prequels so much better and so kind of almost thankful that you have them, because then it gives you this. And I think that's one of the biggest things you can take away from Clone Wars is just how much it improved the story of Star Wars, especially during that time period.
Jacob, any final words?
I agree with you, Brian. For me specifically, Clone Wars overall made Anakin like 1,000 times better.
Yes, I agree with
Like
that.
I believe that if people, and look, I've came around on like I don't think Hayden's doing a great job in acting in the prequels, but I still like. I wouldn't switch out Hayden at this point. I wouldn't switch out Hayden for another actor because he is Anakin now for me.
Yeah.
But like the prequels just built on his character so much more. Like we already loved Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, so there you didn't have to make us love him more in the Clone Wars. But even though they did, we needed to love Anakin. So and Clone Wars made me love Anakin. So I'll always appreciate it for that.
That's a very good point. Very good point. Because he got bashed. Mm-hmm. I remember how much he got bashed and hated on. This kind of built it and made people appreciate it him a little bit more.
I agree. All right, gentlemen. Well, if we have nothing else to say, that officially wraps the Star Wars, the Clone Wars here on the Padawan podcast. It is officially over. It's the last time we will see many of these characters. I have a feeling, hopefully, we will see someone like Ahsoka and Rex, specifically Rex, in the future. But until that time comes, we appreciate everything that these creators have done for this series and how brilliant it has been. And it ended on the most beautiful note it could end on. So that is it for the Padawan podcast today, guys. We thank you guys for joining us as always. Make sure to not find us not just on YouTube, but also podcast platforms everywhere. So Apple, Spotify, Anchor, Google, Breaker, all that good stuff. Make sure you guys are commenting down below in the comments. We would love to hear from you guys. As this is a spoiler review, try to be weary of spoilers in the comments, but go ahead, leave all your thoughts down there, and we will definitely get back to you. The show lives on Tuesdays here on the channel. It'll also be up on audio, and make sure you check out everything else here on the channel as well. So for Brian, for Jacob, for myself, this is this week's Padawan podcast. We thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week, and may the Force be with you.